Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today we're plunging into the fascinating world of SAP SuccessFactors Recruiting. We'll be looking specifically through the lens of the CTHR 83-2505 exam material. Our mission really is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from practice questions from their explanations, basically giving you a clear understanding of how this, well, pretty powerful recruiting module actually works day to day. And just for context, for anyone curious about the certification itself, our sources tell us it's an 80-question exam, you get 3 hours, the cut score is 71%, it's all in English. So yeah, this deep dive should shed some light on the crucial concepts you'll need to grasp, not just for an exam, but for really understanding the system. Okay, so let's unpack this. When we talk about a big system like SAP SuccessFactors Recruiting, where do we even start? What are the absolute foundational pieces that make it tick?
Well, right at the heart of configuring the recruiting management module, you find templates. They're essentially the blueprint, right? The scaffolding that almost everything else is built on. Our material points to 3 core templates that are, well, absolutely foundational. First, there's the candidate profile template. That defines the layout for candidate data. Then the job requisition template. This structures the actual job requests and makes sure you get consistent data collection right from the start. And finally, the application template that controls the fields and, the general behavior of the form candidates fill out.
That makes a lot of sense, thinking of them as blueprints. So let's zoom in on the job requisition template. The sources really hammer home its role in structuring the form layout and fields, ensuring consistency. But what's the real strategic value there? Is it just about having neat forms, or is it like something deeper?
Oh, it's absolutely deeper. I mean, yes, it defines the form, but its main job is setting up a consistent framework right from that very first step, requesting a hire. And the insight here really is that this standardization, it isn't just for tidiness. It's actually the foundation for scaling up, for ensuring compliance across all your hires, and even for making future audits, possible. Without it, you're just constantly battling inconsistent data, manual errors down the line. And that can cost companies a lot of time and, frankly, money.
That's a really strong point, how a seemingly simple template choice ripples out and impacts so much later.
Yeah.
So, okay, once these templates define what info we need, the next logical step seems to be controlling who can actually see that info, who can interact with it, who can change things, which brings us squarely into permissions and roles, right?
Exactly. And what's quite fascinating here is how these templates then interact with the really granular permissions. So, for example, when you're setting up offer detail templates, the sources clearly state you need 2 specific permissions. One is manage offer letter template, which, well, that makes sense for creating and editing them. And the other is manage recruiting settings. That's needed for broader configurations that, touch on offer letters. It's kind of a layered security approach.
A layered approach, yeah, that makes sense. Are there common mistakes people make setting these up, like maybe giving too much access or maybe being too restrictive and slowing things down?
Yeah, that's a great question. A really common pitfall is definitely over-permissioning. Giving users way more access than they actually need. That can lead to accidental changes or, worse, security issues. But then the flip side is being too restrictive. That creates bottlenecks, right? People can't do their jobs without constantly asking an admin for help. It's definitely a balancing act. And speaking of roles, within the job requisition template itself, our sources highlight originator. That's the person who kicks off the request, creates the requisition, and hiring manager, the one responsible for the hiring decision. These are valid operator roles. It's important to understand that other common titles, maybe like a VP of HR or something generic like GM Self, they are not standard operator roles in the specific context. Only roles with defined permissions can act on these requisitions. And digging even deeper into that job requisition template, you can control both the visibility of fields for each operator role and their read-write access, also per role. So this means you can really fine-tune who even sees a specific field and then who actually has the authority to edit it. That level of granular control, it's just crucial for data integrity and for making sure the workflow is smooth, permission-based, without cluttering things up for users who don't need to see everything.
Wow, that level of control over who sees what and who edits what sounds incredibly powerful. You made me give a quick example, like a common business scenario where this kind of fine-tuning really helps, prevents a headache or speeds things up.
Sure. Think about salary information on a job requisition. Maybe you only want the hiring manager and the compensation team to see that field, but maybe only the comp team should actually be able to edit it. That's a classic use case.
Hmm.
Or perhaps internal notes about the budget. Maybe only the originator and HR see those initially, hidden from the hiring manager until later. It just stops sensitive information being, broadly exposed or accidentally changed, streamlines things, reduces confusion.
Right, I see. That makes perfect sense.
Hmm.
So we've got templates defining the what, permissions handling the who. The next piece of the puzzle must be controlling the flow itself, right? How the requisition moves along. And this is where the job requisition route map comes in. It sounds like the GPS for approvals.
Precisely. Yeah, GPS is a good analogy. The route map's main job is to meticulously control that approval flow for job requisitions. It spells out exactly who needs to approve it and, critically, in what order before it can actually move forward. This is absolutely vital for governance, especially in big companies or places with complex compliance rules.
Absolutely critical for keeping things organized and compliant. But approvals are one thing. What about communication within that workflow? Getting the right information to the right people at the right time seems just as important.
Communication is definitely key. And that's where email triggers and templates really become invaluable. Our sources clarify that the email triggers, the ones for candidate status changes, they get assigned in the Edit Applicant Status Configuration section. So that manages those automatic notifications when a status updates, like, say, moving from new applicant to interview scheduled. And here's a really crucial tip, something that often gets missed. After you create a new email template, you must actually go into its settings and enable it. Only then can it be used in recruiting. It's not enough just to build it. You have to flip the switch, basically.
Ah, okay. That sounds exactly like the kind of small detail that could easily trip someone up if they weren't aware. So it's clear that getting these processes, the route maps, the communication points, getting them right, is essential for efficiency, making sure nobody misses an important update.
Yeah, and this brings up another important question, doesn't it? Once you've got the framework built, the workflow is flowing nicely. How do recruiters actually manage all that candidate information efficiently? Because there can be a lot of it. And that's where the candidate summary page really shines. Candidate summary page, it's this powerful component. Lets recruiters see all the relevant info, like the candidate's full history with the company, their resume, other key details, all consolidated onto one screen. And that consolidation, it's not just, a nice to have convenience, it's a real productivity multiplier. Think about how much time recruiters can waste switching between screens, digging for info, context switching, right? The candidate summary page cuts way down on that, lets them focus on evaluating the person, not fighting the system. That's where you see the real value.
Yeah, that sounds like a huge time saver. Having everything right there helps them focus on the human side, not the admin. So, okay, what happens then when a candidate, for whatever reason, just isn't the right fit for a specific role they applied to? How does the system handle that without, you know, just deleting them or losing track of them completely?
Right. So when a disqualification status gets selected in the application process, its effect is actually very specific, very targeted. It stops the candidate from moving forward in the pipeline, but only for that specific job requisition. It's a precise action. And crucially, like you said, it doesn't permanently delete the candidate from the system. They're still in your talent pool for other potential roles. It also doesn't automatically close the requisition they were linked to. And it definitely doesn't remove them from any other jobs they might have applied for. So it's really about gracefully exiting them from one specific application process without affecting their overall record or other active applications. So maybe a final thought to leave you with is, what other behind-the-scenes configurations in systems like this might have an outsized, maybe even unexpected, impact on real-world business outcomes?
That's a really fascinating thought to mull over, something to definitely think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Until next time, keep exploring.